Turning our attention now to the ASX, here's Matt Birney and Bulls and Bears with the latest public company views and interviews.
Welcome to Bulls and Bears, brought to you today by biotech company Cynata Therapeutics, ASX code CYP. I'm Matt Birney and I'm joined now by the Managing Director of Cynata Therapeutics, Dr. Ross Macdonald. Hi, Ross.
Hi, Matt.
Okay, Ross, Cynata is developing treatments for multiple medical conditions across a raft of clinical trials, and you recently got the all-important nod from the American FDA for a clinical trial on a disease known as graft versus host disease. We'll come back to that. Now, I understand the common denominator across your therapy development is stem cells. Without getting too technical, how do they work?
Well, the particular type of stem cell that we're developing, Matt, is the coordinator of our immune system. So it controls the functional elements of our immune system, a bit like the conductor of an orchestra, where without the conductor, the orchestra makes a heck of a lot of noise. It's not terribly harmonious, but the conductor comes along, and that's the role of our stem cells, and then makes a symphonic and very pleasant sound. So that's the ultimate application of our stem cells.
Righto. Well, the American FDA seem to like it. They've just granted you approval to run a trial on graft versus host disease. What is that disease? Who typically gets it? And what will the trial involve?
Well, first of all, the FDA clearing our IND is a hugely important step for the company. It's a major validation of the technology and our underlying platform. Graft versus host disease is a devastating condition that arises in patients who have had a bone marrow transplant in the course of receiving their treatment for cancer, typically leukemias. And our stem cells have already been shown in a clinical trial that we completed in the UK and Australia to be very effective in treating that disease. So this is an expansion of that pathway, ultimately towards commercialisation. When
will the trial start, and when do you expect to get some results?
Well, we've now got clearance from the FDA, so it's a matter of negotiating with the conduct of the trial with hospitals in the United States, Australia, and potentially other jurisdictions. That trial will get underway, we anticipate, towards the end of this year, and we expect results sometime in 2024.
Now, Cynata is also running a trial of its therapies on a respiratory disease, and I note St George Hospital in Sydney has just put its hand up to be involved. How significant is that, given the trial is already underway elsewhere?
Well, we have seen some problems with recruitment in clinical trials globally at the moment, given that hospitals have been overwhelmed by managing patients with COVID, which coincidentally is one of the causes of this respiratory disease that we're looking at. And so expanding to St George, which is one of the larger hospitals in the Sydney area, will certainly increase the watershed of patients that we have for that trial, and thus ultimately get the trial completed as soon as possible.
Ross Macdonald from Cynata Therapeutics, thanks for joining me on Bulls and Bears today. And remember, we're only here to give you information, not advice, which you should of course seek independently. I'm Matt Birney, and this is Bulls and Bears.
For more public company CEO interviews, go to the Money page on the 6PR, 2GB and 3AW websites and click the Public Companies tab.